Hey there, and welcome to the Bold Badass Business Show, where we bring you badasses from all over the world. And today, you all, I want you to hold on to your seats because we have quite an interesting guest today. This is Jennifer Gligoric, who is a client growth catalyst. Now, Jennifer runs a podcast called the Super Clinic Podcast and Super Clinic Project Podcast. And she has been in business 25 years, like me. And she goes in when companies and clinics really need some crisis intervention and helps them figure out why things aren't working and how to get back on track. So I'm thrilled to have you here, Jennifer. Welcome to the show.
I'm excited to be here too, and I'm excited to give value.
Yes, for sure. Because, whether or not somebody has a clinic, right? Our all of our businesses need systems. And
Oh
I
yeah.
think so often as solopreneurs, for instance, would think about their businesses as bigger as a clinic, they would come up with the systems a lot earlier that they need to have success.
Oh, absolutely. And I've worked in a lot of startups. I've scaled a lot of digital businesses. I've been doing it for a long time, but I'm going to tell you that anytime I've walked into a company or even gotten a job where things weren't right and it was going wrong, it was never the widgets they sold. It was never the website or the brochures or the marketing or the scapegoat. They said if
Mm,
only Bob would make more sales. It was always an HR issue. They were paying
mm,
the wrong people the wrong amounts. They were in the wrong positions. They were not managing them correctly. And in solo or small companies, a lot of it is family and friend issues that were not ironed out to establish employer, the more contractual relationship that you have with employers, right?
Oh
There
my
was simply not.
lands. Yeah, like when you do business, especially with friends and family, you got to have everything hashed out. Every contract needs to be bulletproof, even more so, I think, than even with strangers.
Yeah.
So, when did you realize, Jennifer, that you really love to do this work where you would go in and find what's going wrong and correct it?
Well, my mother was an incredible. She still is. She is an incredible entrepreneur. She was amazing. She ran a staffing agency for
Mhm.
54 years. So I always saw her helping people work, right? Get to work and how people handled themselves, with wanting to find a job. My job with her, and I was still in grade school, she would have me set up women on a typewriter. It was an IBM Selectric,
Mhm.
and I would set the timer on their typing test, and then I'd also give them their spelling test. This was a while ago because I'm not a spring chicken, but IBM Selectric should tell you how long ago it was. But they'd come in and they usually had a pretty teased beehive and a cigarette. This was the day where my mom had a full bar in the office to calm nerves for an interview. She would often give them a drink. That was just how people did things. It was a very different world. So I was always so amazed because I'd go to set the timer. They would set their margins. The ladies
Mhm.
would set their margins. Now, on an IBM Selectric, if you wanted to bold something, you type the letter and you'd backspace and type it again. So everything had to be perfect,
Mm.
right? It was actually the typing. And they would put the cigarette in their mouth and then they'd light it. And then she'd nod at me. And then they would do it 80 words a minute with no autocorrect, having to backspace perfectly aligned. And I was more fascinated by the cigarette ash not falling onto the keyboard than I ever was that. So anyway, but being, the working, how are we of service, right? Like,
Yeah.
and so that's how I started out. I had a very tumultuous, I grew when I was growing up. You'd think I have a silver spoon in my mouth, and then
Mhm.
addiction and other things came into the family, and I ended up being a homeless teen. So
Mm.
very big difference. And then afterwards, in my job progression, it just happened organically. I just ended up being a fixer. I would go
Mm.
to a job and fix. And then I
Yeah.
ended up just kind of going out on my own and realizing that if I were ever going to really break out and to do what I wanted, I had to do it on my own. My mother was an entrepreneur, and I just took more contracts before it was cool to take contracts. And I would try to help more than one person at a time. Before you know it, it just grew from there. And I just happened to be good at it. And being homeless actually gave me, I talk about my
Mm.
superpower. When I was homeless, my not being seen was the goal. Being a young woman on the street, you don't want anyone to notice you because
Right.
horrible, horrific things happen to you if you get noticed.
Yeah.
So blending in and being in the background and just doing what I had to do and not getting noticed really helped me when I was going into the business, which I did for a very long time, because then I could really see the rot. Because immediately if a consultant comes in, especially one with a big old an attitude or someone who is very visual, everyone's going to go, they're here to get me fired. Right. And so I would just have, it sometimes took weeks just for them to get over that to even want to talk. Right. But I would just sit down and go, where can you put me to work? Can I help you with this? What task is really plaguing you? I'm going to see if there's anything that I can help you with, or maybe we can get in a better solution for you. That's what I wanted to do, right? Because if a broker or a buyer called me and said, hey, Jen, we have a really poorly performing business asset. Can you go in and see what you can do? My job is to do it in the most expedient, efficient way possible, which is, how do we not spend money? Well, what can we do with the resources we have? And the greatest resource is the staff, right? So I would go in and then I would blend and just become part of it. And I would see the systems, which systems were not working, which ones we spent too much money on, or just they frustrated people. A lot of people would buy, computer programs, or if they were in clinics, these EHR programs, or, a contact management solution for other companies. And they were working for that program. The program was not working for them. Right. So sometimes it just was a shift in software that just made things easier. But that really
getting the right people in the right position.
Yeah. And also too, when you blend, you can see who is the rot. And sometimes there is, there's a mutiny afoot. That's why things aren't working, because someone's, literally working against the business owner. That happens a lot more, even in small businesses, than people think. It definitely happens in big business when there's politics. And I was just really good at noticing and questioning, and then coming up with, if there was, instead of going, oh, we have all these problems, to go, we have some challenges. So these are the solutions that I think can fix the challenges. Being a fixer.
Really see how you're having that experience of being homeless, and blending and being invisible, so you could watch and observe and gather data, basically, right? And also being a fixer, finding solutions. That also came from that experience, because, I had addiction in my family too, Jennifer. And what that meant is the rest of us had to pull the weight that, wasn't being pulled by my father. Right. And so we become fixers, and the bad side of that can be people pleasing. But I believe
or codependent.
Right. Codependent people pleasing and just trying to bend over backwards for people. But I think that you found a way to really turn this into your superpower, so you can go in and identify, but not be threatening to people, so they can actually listen.
And doing that in a healthy way, when you come from someone who wants to be codependent, I want to just take care of everything at my health at the expense of everything that comes to me. That's taken a lot of work. That's why, I've been a coach and a consultant for a long time, but I always have a mentor and I always have a coach. And I always get help, because we're all works in progress. So never shy from that. Never shy from growth if you're wanting to truly grow, because you should always be working on yourself. You're never a polished diamond, until the bitter end.
And even then, right? If you think about all the gradations of diamonds, the most rare diamonds are rare. And so there's always another gradation. There's always another level for us to reach. And I like to say it's a level in first. It's a level in, because if we're going to reach for something bigger, we have to first believe it's possible and that we are worthy and deserving of it,
and even know what it is. Some people just say, like, what do you want? I want all my patients or all my customers to be happy and love me. Well, how will you know when that happens?
Exactly. What is the clear sign that has happened?
We'll get
they fill out their evaluations and give you 5 stars.
Yeah, are they going to, yeah, 5 stars?
What is it?
Yeah. And it's always going to be a number that you can track. It's either going to be your reviews. It's going to be how much money they spend, how many units you sell of something, how
many people they refer.
Yes. You can actually track any of that. If you really go, what do you really want? And then you define it out to, and how will I absolutely know I hit it? And how will I know I failed? Okay, so let's write that down and get that. And then let's sign accountability to members of the team for the different parts of the process until that goal is reached. And then we can talk about it. You know, like when you answered the phone, you were able to get 10 people more than you did last month in. So you were able to improve your ability to jazz people up and make them take a chance on walking through the door. Okay, great. You know, there's a bonus potential with that. There is a potential for now the salesperson have that 10 more people that they're able to take down that funnel to show this environment to and wow this person and build trust, right? That you have all these different steps in that journey with your client that you can do. And you know, we're supposed to be talking about ethical entrepreneurs.
Oh, we'll get to that.
Okay, yeah. But this is what being an ethical entrepreneur is. When you think about your ultimate value set and you build it to that, then you can do, how can we do this the best possible, most human-centric, heart-centered way? Yes. That is what ethical entrepreneurship is. And it's what we actually lack. We lack that in a lot of places, and the places that get it right do very, very well.
Listen, I'll tell you, when I get on the phone and it's this automated system and it takes me 20 minutes to get to a freaking live person, you know, am I the only person who pretends to be deaf? Or whatever, so I could get a live person.
Oh, no. This is like, I'm going to take my phone here. Representative! Right?
Something's wrong when you're cussing out your cell phone, right? Because you can't get a live person. And right now, you know, this is sad. And now people are being replaced by AI. And in certain instances, that could work. Like I had an experience ordering at a drive-through recently, and it was AI operated, and it actually worked. I was pretty amazed, but I missed the connection. You know, the funny things, we're meant to connect.
We are meant to connect. And I'm going to tell you that it's funny, you know, it's funny in the ironic way that originally people were like, you know, the little people, the poors are going to be the ones that are going to lose all their jobs. AI is going to take over. It's the exact opposite.
Yes.
We no longer need politicians with AI because what do? They're just doctors. A lot of what doctors do, we're not going to need them in that same capacity. All healthcare professionals are going to have to pivot because AI has the ability to memorize mass amounts of data and pair it. What you have to do in any lawyers, you have to do more. You have to get out more contracts. For a doctor, you have to be able to get more diagnoses out, right? Coders have to code more, right? And this is a direct quote from the CEO of Fiverr, who just sent like 2 or 3 weeks ago to all of his employees. He sent out an email that says, AI is coming for your jobs. It's coming for mine. I've had Shelly, who's his assistant, clear my schedule for those of you who want to talk, but this is going to upset many of you. And he basically lined out, he goes, the easy jobs aren't going to be available for humans anymore. The hard jobs won't be available. AI is going to do all the hard jobs. It's the impossible jobs that you're going to have to do. You have to be a master in your field, and an AI prompt, large learning language master, LLM master, or you will not be able to compete. And I'm not talking about you can't compete here at Fiverr. You will not be able to compete in your career. And so if you want to talk about it, we will pull up the tools and whatever. And so I was like, that's crazy. But of course, he's seeing the freelancers. He's seeing the highest level professionals all getting phased out. And I thought, he is handing you guys, everyone in his company, a way for you all to come together and go, how can we do this together? You're right.
I
he's
want to
giving
say
a gift.
something though, Jennifer. I want to
Uh,
give an example because when you brought
mm,
up attorneys, I was like, oh, interesting, because I
mm.
recently had something from a client that obviously she had used AI to formulate this, right?
Oh,
Trying to get out of a contract, right? And you know what's so interesting is I called my attorney and he read this and he said, hmm, wonder what AI prompt she used. Well, this right here isn't applicable. This right here isn't, blah, blah, blah. And so I don't care how much information can be aggregated by AI. The thing is, we still need somebody who can say, well, wait a second, though. Out of
yes.
these right here in North Carolina, this is what applies. This no longer applies. This applied at one point, but no longer. We need somebody who can curate the information. And I was so, and he wrote the letter that needed to be written. And I was so grateful because when I received it, I thought, this looks like AI
Oh,
here.
no, that is where the lawyers will have to go. It's discernment.
But
It's
see,
being able
people are
to,
stupid, Jennifer, because they think they can do it themselves.
no, you won't be able to do it
You
yourself
can't do
because
it yourself
the thinking is
with
what's
AI.
important. So how to thrive with AI as an ethical entrepreneur is thinkers and people who can be truly creative and thinkers. They're going to be the ones that are going to do well in the white collar replacement of AI, right? We're always going to need techs that build things. We're always going to need someone to do the sprockets, to do the robots and all that, right? So blue collar is not really going to go anywhere. It will change, right? But it's the thinking, right?
Yes.
And you have to know what you're doing ahead of time. So if that would have been a baby lawyer, probably wouldn't have been as great. It would have taken hours, if not a week or so, to craft a response because the AI was instantly able to grab data. The thing is that AI is evolving so rapidly that next year that letter is going to be a lot more refined, right? Because it depends on which AI you get. If you use ChatGPT, that is one type of AI. But for example, I pay for an AI Sintra that I love. There are 12 helpers for my business in Sintra, and some of them can't do what the other one does. So I went to one and I said, I need you to develop this type of document for me. And the AI lied to me and said, I'll give it to you in 10 minutes. And it kept on saying that. 3 hours later, I was like, you have lied to me. I am not happy. This is not acceptable. Like I'm talking to his staff. I said, so which one of the other helpers can do it? And it referred me to 2 other helpers. I went to the first one. I thought, okay, that makes sense. I went to that one, instant reply. Then I went to the other one, instant reply. And then I looked at them both and I was like, okay, these are almost the same, but this reply seems better. So each one is going to learn because you have to think about how complex human thought is, because we draw in from the environment, what we see, what we hear, what we taste, what we feel. And so you have to program that in zeros and ones, binary code, all of that. So you're going to have very specific AIs, and no matter what field you're in, you're going to probably use not 1 or 2, but you'll have a host of the AIs that you use for different models of thinking.
And we're going to be need to be holistic in the way that we approach it. We're going to need to take from all of these different sources and have that critical thinker who can come in and analyze and say, as you did, oh, that answer, no, I know that answer. I've seen that answer doesn't work. Oh, this answer over here, yes, that's more on target. Oh, this answer right here, this could be a possible solution for the future. See, that's the other thing is, how much can AI determine the future? See, here's the other thing I think about, because in the stock market, how they say past performance is not the predictor of future performance. Yeah.
So AI has been noticing trends in the stock market, though. For example, AI helped that group of people follow Nancy Pelosi and a couple of other Congress people's stocks. So they started betting on the same stocks and they started making a fortune. And because they started doing so well, and then they started hedging certain ones against that, it caught the attention of these billion-dollar hedge funds because they were messing with their business. Then they start to investigate. They wanted to stop them, and they said, no, you cannot stop us, which they can. I mean, legally, if we
They're
beat
not
you at your
anything.
No, if we beat you at your own game, then what are you saying? The system is rigged against all of us, not for you, which is exactly what it is, right? And so now all of a sudden the conversation finally has come out to other lawmakers went, wait, maybe we shouldn't allow trading. No crap. There should be no ability to trade if you already know ahead of time what laws that you're looking at that nobody can see and it's going to be coming. I mean, that should be a duh thing, you know? And so, you know, there's a lot. I want to say, though, it's the critical thinking. Don't worry about yourself. If you truly know in your heart that I can help people and this is the value I can get, AI is not going to replace you. It's going to be the tools for you to help more people.
And I believe that. I do believe that. But we have to be the ones who are shuffling it, who are giving the prompts, who are refining the prompts, who are using the different types of AI, as you point out, because there are so many that we can use. And, you know, we've got to look at our values as we do this, right?
Oh,
and
absolutely.
As you pointed out with the politicians, it's a conflict of interest.
Yes.
That is a conflict of interest.
Yeah, do as I say, not as I do does not fly. Does not fly. We are savvy. We're not going to allow that anymore. We are opening and to a new collective consciousness. No matter what side you're on, we are more aware, and so we are not going to allow those things. And we need to be vocal about that, and we need to be vocal about it when we see people we do align with or we don't align with, and not let these party or whatever sort of lines, you know. I don't care if I love someone, if it's my best friend, she's doing something bad. Like, my best friend would never be a cheater or anything like that. But let's say, immediately I would go, I can't be friends if that person's married. Let's say that would never happen. But because that is the value I have, and I'm supposed to help you. And I know that when you do something like that, it's a low point in your life. Yeah, this is something you're not going to be happy with, and you're literally being your worst version of yourself, and you're demanding someone else be the worst version of themselves too. That's a no-go. You need to find people that are going to have you be your best version of yourself, right? And so we need to do that regard. We need to love people enough to care enough about them to say something.
Yes.
You know. Yeah.
That's that tough love. It's a lot. This is what I say, you know, I call myself badass business coach. And I always say to people, look, you can count on me. I'm always going to have your best interest at heart. And I'm always going to be direct with you. You can count on me for that. And I will go out on a skinny branch and hang there, risking you hating my guts or thinking I'm an asswipe because I'm telling you what I see. And we have to be willing to take a stand. And that's something that AI really can't do. AI cannot take a stand. Now, I want to stop for a second because we didn't really define ethical entrepreneurship. So first of all, how would you define that, Jennifer? How would you define ethical entrepreneurship?
Well, I think ethical entrepreneurship isn't so much about a set of specific values. I think an ethical entrepreneur, and what I speak about, is what is your God-given purpose. And maybe if you don't believe in God, the reason you are here on this planet, what is the universe wanted for you?
Why are you here?
You have to ask yourself, today, did I take a step or steps towards what my purpose is on this planet?
Oh, and if you wait, say that question again. I love that question.
Oh, today, did I take steps to what my purpose is on this planet? Do I feel like I'm headed towards my purpose, or that I'm anesthetizing myself and not thinking about it? So there are people you meet, like we all know the people who feel like, I've got a good beat on things. You know, it wasn't great today, but I feel like I'm a good person and I'm doing, maybe not enough. I want to do a lot more, but they're positive. Then you have other people who are like, I hate this life. I hate this. I'm going to go play video games for 10 hours, or I'm going to go hit the bar, or, you know, my boss sucks and blah, 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 blah. And they're just going to go watch sports all night long. And they are, because they are so disconnected. It's like did you work towards your purpose? I can't. The world's prevented me from that. There's just those mindsets out there. And I'm not saying you can help those people, right? But if you're thinking to yourself, well, how can I be an ethical person, ethical entrepreneur? That is the very biggest step. Because if you truly feel that, and we all know when we're aligned and when we're not, we do. It's called our conscious. We feel it. And we can be kind to ourselves. We can say, man, I could have done 5 other things, but are you still going to try? Tomorrow you're going to try better? Okay. Yeah. That's how you do it. You just get up every day. And in business, you need to define what that purpose is and what that business's purpose is. Like, for example, if you're a chiropractor, my purpose is to help the people of San Diego live a pain-free life and to do it without drugs or surgery.
Nice.
That is what I'm going to wake up every day today. And how do you do that? This is your promise to them. Well, I have a 3-month program where we repair, we restore, and we rehabilitate and restore them. I mean, I just made that up, but that sounds great, right? Yeah. And if you do everything I say, you'll get there and blah, 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 right? Okay, so you have your purpose and your promise. People used to ask me, they would say, what do you do? And I'd say, I sell air. And they go, what? And I say, yeah, I'm the only provider of liquid O2 in all of Oklahoma, right? Well, it was a part of Oklahoma and Texas. And they would say, why is that important? Well, liquid O2 needs no power. You never have to clean it. It's the purest oxygen and it's highly portable. You can just walk around with it. So a doctor will never have a patient die being hooked up to a concentrator because they lost electricity. They couldn't afford it because concentrators are huge electricity suckers.
Yes.
Or they needed it to be the air filter cleaned because they have a bunch of dogs and you couldn't get out there enough. And so they had it hooked up, but it was only 80% and they ended up dying because they needed more.
So you could really say at a deeper level, I keep people alive.
Yeah.
Die.
Yeah, that's right. And I didn't say that at that time because I was a kid.
Say something like that, they're like, oh my gosh, then you've put the juicy shrimp out on that hook and they're like, well, tell me how, you know? Or I say people, I remember, this reminds me of a guy who was in a seminar I did years ago at this business center. And when he introduced himself, he said, oh, I audit medical bills. And I was literally like, groan.
What do you do? I work for a doctor's office. What do you do? I work for an accounting firm.
I'm a lawyer. No. And I said, look, tell me something. Answer a question. On average, how much do you save people on average when you audit their bills, their medical bills for them? Because he was auditing for particular people. And he said, about $10,000. And I said, well, that is what you need to say. I save people on average $10,000 and not being taken advantage of by the medical system, because anybody who hears that is going to be saying, oh, how do you do that? And they're going to want to know.
Yes. You want the next logical question to be, well, how do you do that?
Yes, you want to give somebody something so juicy, and
not just you, your staff, your whole staff should be so dialed into that purpose.
The mission and the purpose of that business it's not just making money. It's never just about the bank account. It's about how can we change the lives of people around us.
It is transactional. I mean, I show up, you pay me, right? The reason I show up is so my children and I can eat and have shelter and foods. Yes. I mean, you can't, no one's going to work for air, right? And no one's going to work if your wages are so low, they can't afford a decent shelter and living, right? But there has to be even more than that because they're giving you the majority of their waking hours. So on top of the transaction of they're working for money, you also have to add a little bit more. And it's not that, I mean, that's just the way it is. And so figure it out, right?
I love that you're saying they really need to have everyone on board be dialed in.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that means, of course, you're going to vet people according to who shares this enthusiasm or passion and purpose, right?
You
But
fed
we
them
have,
right away. Stop asking them. Stop going, well, let me look. Where did you go to school? I
right,
mean,
or do
unless
you
they
know
need this,
Excel?
yes, unless they
Yes.
need that certification for that,
Yeah,
you really want to find out if they can enjoy and like the
yes,
job that they're doing. So
and
you
believe in
need
it.
and believe in it. Just say, this is this. What excites you about this? Okay. In the day, these are the types of things you'll be doing. And then listen to how they behave to that. There are certain people who are very excited about that and other people who are not, right? I'm not saying you shouldn't vet them on Excel. In fact, I had a clinic I was working with, hired someone who outright lied, said they had 10 years this. She gets in and they're like, okay, you need to put this into this spreadsheet. And they just sat there. And then she sat there and goes, okay, so go here. And she had to tell her what a cell was and how to move in the spreadsheet. Obviously had never looked at that program before, right? So there is some screening you need to do. You can't,
Yeah.
that was an
She can
extreme.
learn that.
That was an extreme one. So needless to say,
Yeah.
in 2 days, they were like, we're going to have to let you go. They didn't even bat an eye. They knew, right? I mean, that's just ridiculous, right? That's an extreme example, but it's true. That still happens today, right? This was Atlanta. So, I mean, it's still happening. But yeah, you do screen them for some things, but ask the questions, like, don't,
Character.
yeah, find out like who they actually are and care, like,
Yeah.
where do you live? Is this commute how is that for you? Have you ever, driven that far before? What do you like about it? They're either going to be really excited or a little bit hesitant, like, just be more intellectually curious about the people that you're going to be spending the majority of your day with. If you can just do that, it'll be better.
Yeah, because we can't really teach somebody elements of integrity and character. We can't. We can support them in developing that, but they've got to kind of have a kernel of that already. But if it's a program, if it's something they need to learn, a CRM or whatever, they can eventually learn that.
Yeah, eventually, if you're able to teach them that. In
Yes.
some positions you can't, especially if you're a very small business, you
Right.
can't take hours and hours to
Yes.
teach someone Excel. They do need to bring them up. That is so basic. They teach it in high school now. All kids in high school.
Yeah.
I mean, well, I don't know all kids, but I know my son's high school is a public school.
Yeah.
He graduated from that, not this year, but last year.
They
learned it.
Yeah.
Yeah. They had Canvas or something going on.
Yeah. Well, so ethical entrepreneurship is a way for us to situate AI,
Yeah, well, you have to, it's recentering it in the most human-centric way. Ethical entrepreneurship is just bringing the humanity back to business. It's the only way we can truly compete with big box stores and these huge monopolies, which we're not even supposed to have to begin with. I mean, the fact that Facebook and Instagram and Amazon have not been broken up is really a crime. And we could talk about that all day long, right? But still people crave human connections, right? And so just think about, you either believe in a higher purpose or you don't. So if you do not believe in a higher purpose, this will not resonate with you. But you were born in this time, in this age, with these challenges for a reason. And you were given the purpose now for the reason. So why would you be given what purpose you have if you did not have the opportunity to pursue it at all?
Right.
Do you really feel that God or the universe is so cruel? I just, maybe you do. If so, then that's your deal. But I don't believe that, right? I don't believe that for the vast majority of people. We're here, we have these challenges, but I feel if you reconnect with that purpose, all of a sudden doors and options and things open up and a whole world is going to be available to you.
And if you can put that purpose in a couple of words, just 2 or 3 words, right? I realized that really what I am for people, if it, at a foundational level, is a spiritual catalyst. That's it, spiritual catalyst. And so they're putting that into business, or maybe they're putting that into their life, into their family, but I'm a spiritual catalyst. And as soon as I I was able to hone in on that. Everything from my volunteer work to my hobbies, it all made sense, right? Spiritual catalyst. So if you can think about what is it when you are in your hobbies, maybe you're at the gym or you're at your church or your synagogue or your meditation group, whatever. What is it that you do that other people appreciate? Or what do they ask you for, right? What do people ask you for? And look at all the realms in your life and you'll start to see a pattern, right? So you, for example, fixer,
Yeah.
fixer, you know, and I would guess that you're the friend. Tell me if this is wrong, Jennifer, but you're the friend that people call and they say, oh my God, this just happened. What should I do?
Yes. Yes, all the time. In fact, it's not always friends. I can't tell you. My mother had it. I remember going and like my mother would go to a checkout and then all of a sudden they just tell her all their problems. Yes. I can't tell you like how many times I've been sitting there checking out and then the lady just goes, and I say, okay, well, what is it? You know, her explosive diarrhea or something. And I'm like, just whatever, they'll just tell me and I'll try to, I try to give them whatever advice I can give them, even if it makes no difference. But yeah, there's just something about me that helps me. I think I'm more of a muse. When you said, who are you? I know we talked about that is gratitude. I'm a very grateful person for everything. I'm a giver. I'm just a natural giver. I always have been. And I'm a muse. I can help people pull out what their superpower is so they can expand it. I believe in the shiny light theory,
where muse.
Yeah, that you should be as shiny as you want to be. Never dim your light for anyone else. And if the brighter you shine is the brighter everyone else will shine around you. Like, look at COVID. That was dark times, right? We were all fascinated by Tiger King. I remember just going, Carol Baskin's the devil, right? Just watching that, just being fascinated by it. And then we all had this weird time, right? Where it was like, what is even going on, right? But then there were people who created an entire other economy on TikTok of all places. They were dancing or whatever. And I remember this one lady. So I don't know how she came to this, but she decided that her superpower was whimsy and wonder. And so she had a chemical background, like research and doing different things. And of course that shut down. But she knew how to put different regions open and make different colors. So she liked Harry Potter. And so she made a job of making these concoctions that when you shook them, they would either change color or they could do all this crazy stuff. And then she took wax and everything else and she would make custom made bottles. And you thought, you'll never, the more hardcore business portion of me was like, you're never going to make a penny on that. Made a fortune. She made a fortune. People were buying in COVID when nobody's working. Yes. People were spending money to get those custom bottles and they just thought it was fascinating. I saw another lady and what she does is she makes dioramas that look like a book. They're inside of a book where you can press a button or you just walk by it lights up and it's a whole world inside of it. Made a whole fortune. People exploded with creativity, or the people who are like, I'm gonna show you how we're raising chickens now because we can't afford anything. So these are the chickens. This is how you look at chickens. If you get a rooster, that's not going to make you eggs, but this is what you can do. And guess what? I wrote an ebook for you on everything for it. They sold it on TikTok. They ended up feeding themselves, their kids, and making money doing that. You know why? Because they thought, what is my purpose? Well, I'm good at this and I like these chickens and people don't appreciate chickens enough. And they did it. And if all those people can do it, I'm going to tell you, anyone listening here can do it. What is your true purpose? And get excited about it.
What are you passionate about?
Yeah.
I would say when I've got a seminar I love doing, which is turning your passions into a livelihood, how to turn your passions into a livelihood. And one of the things I say is don't even think about a niche, right? What I want you to do is write down all the things that you love to spend your time on. So maybe you love travel. I love travel. You love travel too. I love reading. I love reading. Maybe you love cooking, or maybe you love touring museums, and maybe you love
drinking wine.
Yeah, drinking wine. So what I have people do is write all this stuff, and it seems to be like different and disparate. But then we start looking at it and say, wait a second, you could be a wine, you could travel the world and visit wineries, and you could report on this. You could write books on it, or you could write a blog or do a vlog, a video log. So there are so many ways we can incorporate everything. And when we think, as in improv theater, I do improv theater, and it's so much fun when we think yes and instead of, well, I really love to cook, but I'm a chemist, so I have to be a chemist. No, think about how can you bring your passions and your expertise together. And when you connect your passions,
cooking and chemist goes straight to it. That's a good one. That you could be, the cooking chemist. Well,
exactly.
That makes me think about meth and Breaking Bad, but not that, but like, gastronomy.
Home remedies.
Yes.
Home remedies, especially in COVID, for example, since we were talking about that. Doing home remedies that people have so they don't have to go out and get medication when they have a sore throat or they have an earache. Here's what we're talking about, everybody listening. We're really talking about finding what you love, right? Finding what you value and finding what you love, what you're passionate about, and bringing it all together.
Yes.
With expertise.
If you do that, if you're able to do that, not just for what you do during your day, but then that translates to the core values of your company. That translates to your employee values, right? What you value in staff. That's going to make your hiring easier because you already have down like you need to be grateful. You need to show me how you give in your life, and you must be someone inspiring. So then all of a sudden, when I interview people, I'm going to be interviewing for those values. If those value sets, we already know that you can type, or you can do this, or you can answer the phone, or you can, you're a nurse by trade, and I know you worked at this hospital, but these are the values, right? Or you're an accountant, so I already know you can do, W-2s all day long,
crunch
right?
Numbers.
Right, you can crunch those numbers, but these are the values. And then all of a sudden you'll just make better hires with people who are happier to work and, able to speak.
And you enjoy them more.
Yes. And then you're putting that out into the universe. So ethical entrepreneurship and what we talk about is just hone into what your purpose is, really write that down, and double down on who you are and what you really believe in. The people who do that tend to make tons of money. Why? Because they're in the zone. They're doing what they were put here to do, whatever it is. Maybe they're the world's best stamp collector. You know what? That's great. That's your thing, right?
And then I would say, I want to add something to that too, Jennifer. And I love what you're saying. Hone in on that, who you are, what you love, and bring it all together. And I would also say, and who do you want to serve who needs you? And I don't mean just your clients. I mean, what are those causes that you care about in the world? I love rescuing animals. People love working with people who have been abused, women who have been abused. I have a friend who goes and works with kids in Kenya for 5 weeks every year, and they're in this special place, and they've been sexually abused, and they've been separated out from, their communities and protected, right? And she goes and works there because she cares about this. Maybe it's that you want to help the homeless, because I know, Jennifer, you went through that. So what you do is you bring this into your business. So for everyone who comes in for a chiropractic adjustment in the month of May, that you will donate a dozen socks for homeless people. We bring it into our business so that what we're about isn't just us and our clients. It's way bigger than that. Well,
you have to think about
a privilege to have these businesses.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to overrun you there. Yeah. I say you have to think about what you think about in terms of money, and you've got to get rid of those money beliefs, and then think about yourself as money comes in, but the money goes right out. Right. Yeah. And so what are you spending money on? Let's say I had someone say, I really need to update that kitchen. I'm not happy in it anymore. This thing is going on. And she was going on and on about feeling guilty that she wanted to make more money to update in her business, to update her kitchen. And I just listened. I was like, Okay. I said, but let's think about what that entails to update your kitchen. And then who you'll have to buy and who you'll have to hire to do that. So where is your money going? Well, I have to hire a local plumber, a local electrician. I have to hire a local person to help me design that picks out these great little granite pieces that she wanted and all that. And when we figured it out, all the people that were going to benefit and their families going to benefit from that money flowing through her to that was going to enhance her life. All of a sudden she went, I never thought about it like that. So when you are conscious about how your money flows, instead of just, oh, this is conspicuous consumption. Well, it is if you're mindless about it, right?
Exactly.
And making poor choices. But when you actually think about it and think, I'm going to pick the right plumber to do this. I'm going to put it out in the universe that I really want the contractor, that is going to really do a good job, and it's going to do the most help too. For me and them, it's got to be a win-win-win. All of a sudden that starts to actually happen. You meet those people. That's where it goes. You get joy and beauty. They take pictures. They get more clients.
Exactly.
It's just flowing anyway. You can't take it with you. So you can be a good steward of that flow. Right.
And let me point out, this is something I talk about in my prosperity books, just exactly what you're talking about, that I call it being a benefactor. When you are spending your money, wherever you're spending your money, guess what? You're supporting the bank teller. You're supporting the guy who chops up the wood that eventually becomes a paper, that becomes an envelope, that your invoice comes in. You're supporting the mail person. You're supporting the person who does the work. We're benefactors. And this is something that I will say, AI is not a benefactor. It is us as human beings
who decide.
Exactly. It's a helper. It's a support. Sometimes it's a crutch, but it is there to support us. We are the ones who have to manage and deploy it for good in the world.
Yeah.
Well, Jennifer, I have loved this discussion, and you and I could, we could go on and on and on and on, couldn't we? And definitely this has given us so much to think about. So what would be, one thing that you'd like to say to everybody, one last thing you'd like to say to everyone about ethical entrepreneurship and why it's so important in this AI world?
I'm just going to say, you've got to work towards your purpose. And then no matter how challenging you think that is, let's say it's going to make a change in your life. The only other question I tell people consistently, literally every day, and I ask myself this too, is to ask yourself, what would I do if I were not afraid? And make sure.
Wait. Time out. Say it again. I love that. I've heard this question somewhere else in a different way, but I love the way you phrased it.
Yeah. What would I do if I were not afraid? And never let fear be in control of your life and your decisions. There are good fears. Someone's coming at me with a knife. I'm going to go. I shouldn't gamble away all my money. There are very decent, reasonable fears, right? But not in the context I'm speaking of. What would I do if I were not afraid? You know what? I think I would create that jewelry and just test it and see what people think and just go for it. Because what if they say no? Well, what would you do if you're not afraid? I wouldn't care if they say no. I keep on trying. Right?
You would give a shit. You'd be like, I love it because this makes me happy.
Yes, you would do it if it makes you happy. You would keep on doing it. And you would also, for someone like me, I can be in fear. Fear is the thing that I'm battling. So that's why I asked myself that question. I have financial fears in this because I've seen how quickly people can lose it all. In the homeless shelter, I saw families dropping off their kids who had a job 2 weeks before, and then suddenly the landlord got drunk and kicked them out. I saw people in extreme poverty where it takes almost nothing to go from making it to not making it. Yeah. And you'd be amazed at how many people live at that level, right? And that put a lot, that
2 out of 3 Americans living paycheck to paycheck. What the?
Yeah. And so there is a lot of fear, but you can't live like that in that level of stress. And you also level up in
creative,
life.
Right?
Yeah.
We can't open up to solutions when we're just so focused on survival, right? And it's making me think of that Maslow hierarchy of needs that we all saw.
And you can say that's hard to get out of, but as someone who lived in extreme poverty, I'm going to tell you, well, you have to, because that's the only thing. Thinking like this is the only thing that gets you out of it. Thinking about, one day I'm going to have a pool and I'm going to have this or whatever it is. It is those daydreams, if you're sitting in the shelter, that gets those people to get up and go to that job and try again. So if you stop dreaming, you literally are stopping your life. So you have to dream those dreams. You have to think about your purpose. You have a divine responsibility to yourself and your soul to do this.
I love divine responsibility. I love that phrase. Yes.
And you've got it. You got to do it. So that's what I would say. Think about that purpose.
Your divine responsibility. You create it, people. You create it. It's not going to knock on your freaking door.
It's already there inside of you. So do it
inside of you. And
don't let fear.
Coaches who are going to pull it out. Excavate and excavate. Get a coach who helps you excavate and find it. And when you find one level, guess what? There's another level in. So Jennifer, we have something really cool. This is my favorite part of the show. One of my favorite parts. And that is we have the Bold Badass Business Freebie Vault, where every guest who comes on the show gives away something incredible. So in the vault, we have e-courses, we have ebooks, we have complimentary sessions, we have discounted memberships and membership trials for amazing software, etc. We have over 120 incredible gifts, thousands and thousands of dollars of gifts. And we want to put something in there that you'd like to gift to our listeners. So I know I didn't ask you ahead of time.
No, I have 3 of them. I have 3 of them.
You have 3 of them.
So if you go to their vault, or you can go to Super Clinic Project.
Actually, hold up. I'm going to give them the number. I'll give them the address.
Yeah. Okay.
We're going to put it in there.
Okay. But so we have
for us
a free school program. So you can go to our free school and you can get lots of advice and different things like that. We have giveaways, we have quizzes, we have just a lot of stuff. We also have a free trial for a mastermind program. And then I also have a complimentary call with me. If you just go, what's my purpose? I bet you within 15 minutes, because that's what I give you. So you got to be on it. But I bet you I could get out something that'll give you something to think about. So those 3 things.
The first and the third. We'll put both the first and the third into the vault.
Okay.
And everybody listening, you're going to be able to find this. Get your pen or paper now, or dictate this in your phone if you're walking your dog. I always love to say if you're walking your dog, because I love me some dogs. So you're going to put in bit.ly/free from Dr. B. I made it super easy. bit.ly/free from Dr. B, which is DRB. And you're just going to stick in your email. No, we don't share your email. We don't do slimy things. Those people who do that, not ethical. You're not ethical. Ethical entrepreneur. Yeah, we don't share your information. Our goal is to serve you and provide you with business resources for free or incredible discounts, incredible opportunities that you can use so you can have the badass business you want. So, Jennifer, it's been a joy having you, everybody. Again, bit.ly/free from Dr. B, and you'll be able to find the school that she mentioned, have access to that, or a complimentary session with Jennifer to find out what indeed your purpose and your divine responsibility are. So I would just say thank you so much, Jennifer. I've loved our conversation, love your energy. I know we're going to be doing some more work together. I can feel it. And I want to say to those of you all listening that maybe today you're having a bad day. You might be having a bad day, maybe not. But you may not be feeling like a badass in business. Maybe you've had a challenge or a difficult person or something has happened. However, you are a badass and you keep on going, because if you were not a badass, you would not have been here with us today. We'll see you next week, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific for the Bold Badass Business Show. Thanks again, Jennifer.
Thanks.